Hey guys, we're giving away $5,000 total during the springtime. We've already given away $2,000 out of the $5,000. If you guys want a chance to win, head over to our Instagram account, Most Amazing Official, follow us and look for the contest images for a chance to win.
Now, thankfully, I have never watched a lost episode of any show in real life. I've read about countless ones on creepypasta because I hate myself, but thankfully never in person. Now, if you're unaware, a lost episode of a show is one that either went missing or was never aired. They always seem to be extremely disturbing in nature, involving images of death or murder within the episode. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Ayman Hassan, and welcome back to another video. Now, I've done SpongeBob lost episodes, but today we are diving into the dark side of any and all Disney shows and movies. These are the top 10 scary Disney lost episodes. Starting us off at number 10 is Phineas and Ferb Part 1. Despite gaslighting the hell out of Candace, I really loved this show. Their summer was always exponentially more productive than mine, so I just liked living vicariously through them. The unreleased episode in question today was titled The Horrible Death of Phineas, so we already know it's going to be hella screwed up. Apparently this was the alternative episode to the one where the brothers were finally caught and sent to Camp Smile Away. Either way, the episode starts with the brothers and their gang turning the family car into a flying machine. Meanwhile, Perry infiltrates Doofenshmirtz HQ and he's like, dude, I'm over everyone. I'm gonna detonate an atomic bomb on the tri-state area. And he tries shooting Perry a bunch of times while saying so. We cut back to the family's backyard where we see Phineas walking towards his mum to show her his new invention. Then Doofenshmirtz fires at Perry once again, but he dodges, and in a slow motion OC-inspired death, we see Phineas getting shot instead. He's lying in a pool of his own blood, and that is the end of Act 1. Coming in at number 9 is Phineas and Ferb Part 2. Now the tape continues with the words 2 days later flashing across the screen. The shot cuts to Candace in her room singing Yellow Submarine while hanging a rope on the ceiling, which is never a good sign. Jeremy then comes over and asks to see Candace, but when he goes upstairs he sees that she's hung herself, and then he proceeds to kiss her. At this point, Linda comes in and thinks that Jeremy is the one that choked Candace to death, which obviously is not true. Then we see Doofenshmirtz strapped to an electric chair in a state prison surrounded by every other adult in the show. They all cannot wait till he gets executed, and it's actually Perry who switches the chair on, finally getting his revenge. But at the split second right before his death, a series of real photos appear on screen of a man in a lab coat watching a little girl play in the park representing Doofenshmirtz and his daughter Vanessa. Vanessa then starts making out with her own mum, and that's how it ends, with a bit of death and a bit of incest. Just how I like my Disney shows. At number 8 we have Mickey Mouse. Now I never actually watched the Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 30s, mainly because I was born 67 years later, but that's fine. There was one unreleased episode that someone found once the show was released on DVD. The tape shows Mickey in black and white walking past 6 buildings on a continuous 3-minute loop. Then the screen fades out with the sound of a banging piano in the background before that also fades to just annoying white noise. For the longest time everyone thought that's all the tape was, but they were wrong. The tape was actually 9 minutes long, and the tape stays as a black screen until the 6th minute before going back to Mickey. This time the sound in the background is this gurgled cry that gets louder and louder. The sidewalk Mickey is walking on starts warping in ways that defy physics, and he starts. By the 7th minute the cry turns into a scream and Mickey's face begins to fall apart. His eyes roll off his face, his smile becomes even creepier, which I didn't even think was possible. The buildings around him become floating rubble, and the screaming lasts until the 8th minute. After that point, they get cut off and Mickey's face is just there at the end. The last frame had some writing in Russian on it, which translated to "The sights of hell brings its viewers back in." Whatever the hell that means. Filling on number 7 slot is Tom's Basement. I absolutely loved watching Tom and Jerry growing up. I feel like I've legit seen all the episodes. It was just funny in a very simple way, and it's an all-time classic. No one can deny that. That's why I was so butthurt when I realized it was on the list, because I was like, no, please, not you too. Now, in the episode titled Tom's Basement, Tom's abusive owner warns him to stay away from the basement. He's so adamant about it that he violently beats Tom if he even so much as sleeps near the door. Jerry sees this and starts using it to his advantage by manipulating Tom into chasing him into the basement and then hiding when his owner comes along. After being the one to get him into shit to begin with, Jerry feels bad and he ends up killing the owner for hurting Tom so much. The duo then hide the body in the basement, but in a Game of Thrones Red Wedding level betrayal, Jerry then kills Tom as well. Shocking behavior, Jerry, shocking. Now at number 6 are the Aristocats. You guys know I bloody love cats. I'm seriously considering getting mine a little kitten friend as a companion, but then I'm like, wow, am I really ready for 2 cats? Am I ready for that? Either way, this one comes from this dude that found a VHS recording of the Aristocats as a kid and decided to watch it. Horrified at what he had seen, he refused to ever watch it again, and his mum couldn't understand why the movie terrified him so much, considering it was like PG-5. When the boy got to the 5th grade, he realized his experience of the movie was quite different to everyone else's. He asked his mum if they still had that VHS copy, but she said she had thrown it away. It wasn't even a retail copy to begin with, she just bought it at an estate sale, but she ended up surprising him with a new copy of it the next day. The boy worked up the courage to watch it again, and it was fine, which he didn't understand. In the version he had watched, the kittens and their mum were drowned, not drugged and kidnapped. The boy just couldn't comprehend why he had seen such a different movie at the age of 5. He asked his friend, who claimed that perhaps he had seen a bootleg version of the film, but till now he never got to the bottom of it. Plot twist, you probably watched a very photoshopped version of the movie. I'm sorry, my friend. You got scarred, and you got scarred good. Coming in at number 5 is Peter's Shadow. I love Peter Pan, you guys, probably obsessively. I saw both animated movies growing up, and the live action one was the movie of my childhood. I've seen it way too many times. I kind of want to watch it tonight too. And I actually always wanted a Peter Pan related tattoo as well, so that may still be in the cards, you guys. You never know. Either way, this family started watching their VCR version of the movie, and the title screen showed the roof of the house just like the normal movie. But Peter, John, Wendy, and Nana are randomly sleeping on the roof, and the family just assumed it was just a glitch and continued watching the movie. When Peter's shadow lands in their room, Wendy looks at it just like the regular movie, but then we hear her blood-curdling scream. Not knowing what the hell was going on, the dad turns off the VCR and tells everyone to go to bed. The girl couldn't fall asleep out of fear and kept having nightmares about Wendy's scream and what the shadow could have done to her. That night at 12:30 a.m, something knocked her nightstand over, but she was too terrified to check it out. I would be the same. I would probably just hide under my covers, never to be seen again until the next morning when it's finally light outside. 30 minutes later, she looks down from her bunk to see Peter's shadow watching her. She ran and slept in her parents' room, and all was well until the next night. She dreamt she was asleep in the desert with Peter's shadow. It seemed to be possessing her mind almost. The girl needed counseling for the rest of her life, and after finding a black paper in her bed that said "him next," her brother then lost his ability to speak. What's up with the shadow? I've never heard of a shadow being that angry, and also how can a shadow look at you? It doesn't have eyes. At number 4 is Mickey and the Flip Mirror. This user found old VHS tapes of TV shows, and one of them was titled Mickey and the Flip Mirror. Now, the first 2 minutes of the tape were black with the sound of waves in the background before Mickey finally comes on screen very briefly. We see Pete's boat pulling into the harbour as Goofy runs to him, clearly very angry and shouting. Pete pushes him into the water because he's pissed as well, and then the screen cuts to Goofy going into Pete's barn and slamming him against the wall, whilst a bunch of hay traps him on the ground. The words 10 minutes before then flash onto the screen, and we see Mickey with all his friends on a hill looking at a mirror. Lightning strikes the mirror then, and the impact sends Donald Duck back way too far, and he ends up falling down the hill as creepy laughter sounds in the background. Mickey is then pulled into the mirror shards by a mysterious hand for a few seconds, and then he re-emerges as this beast-like evil version of himself. It then cuts to Goofy somewhere in town, and he's all cut up and bleeding, and we see evil Mickey dragging him to Pete's barn. There we see evil Donald and evil Goofy step out of the mirror, and then the words "after Pete" flash across the screen. Goofy's covered in his blood, Mickey's lit his boat on fire, and the trio grow even creepier. Mickey's teeth morph into fangs, Donald's beak melts off, and we just see rows and rows of shark teeth, and there's just this loud humming in the background. Behind them, all we saw was the town burning in flames. And that's honestly all I need to see. Filling at number 3 slot is Inside Out. I'm not gonna lie, I watched Inside Out on one of my flights back home, and I cried so much. If you haven't seen the movie, it's essentially about an 11-year-old girl called Riley and the 5 emotions that live inside her. Now, in the movie, her family moved to San Francisco, bringing sadness to the forefront of her mind. The story was shared by an internet Pixar Animations who claims there was meant to be an Inside Out sequel. The intern found a DVD titled Riley.exe, so obviously they put it on out of curiosity. The title card showed up as Inside Out profanity, and it showed the family's house at night. The sound of wind accompanied the shots of Mrs. Anderson crying as her eyes turned into blood balls before falling from her damn face. She eventually passes out from crying blood, and then it cuts to Riley laughing demonically, trying to take happy pills. Her head then spins fully around, and we see that her eyes are black voids, and she has massive teeth. In some Spider-Man fashion, she then jumps out of the window and somehow lands on her feet. As the scene comes to a close, we start hearing the sounds that were played at the end of the Lost SpongeBob episode, which I don't even understand. Like, what is the link there? SpongeBob is Nickelodeon, this is Pixar/Disney. Either way, the last shot we see is Riley with bloodshot eyes and monstrous teeth standing in the middle of a forest. How did she get there? Nobody knows. Where did she come from? Where did she go? Where did she come from? Cotton Eye Joe. And now, number 2 is 101 Dalmatian Street Part 1. And if you realize by now, I'm giving the most gruesome episodes 2 parts so I can give you the most detail. Now, I had 101 Dalmatians on VCR, so it was the first Disney movie I ever actually watched, and I loved it so much. So I was very surprised that I didn't know the show 101 Dalmatian Street existed. But either way, the episode was titled Dog Food and started off already creepy as hell. The theme song was distorted and super loud, and the lyrics were also completely different. The screen then cuts to the main characters Dolly and Dylan sitting in a dark room, apparently frozen. Each puppy can then be seen gagged and tied to the wall, and when Disney comes inside the room and asks what the hell they're doing, they both say making a snack for Hunter in an extremely deep demonic voice. The eyes then change into a deep green, and the whole room lights up in a green fire. Then Dolly and Dylan grab some axes and start murdering each puppy one by one. One puppy, Dorothy, isn't fat enough, so they just end up throwing her out a window, and you'd think it can't get worse, but it frickin' does, you guys. I draw the line at animal cruelty. Okay? And finally, at number 1 is 101 Dalmatian Street Part 2. The scene then cuts to Dolly and Dylan in front of their parents who they've killed and pinned to 2 crosses. Hunter then comes in saying they have to avenge the death of his grandmother, and so the 3 go into the streets of London and murder every single dog they see. The massacre goes on for a whopping 10 minutes before the trio run into Hansel, to which Dylan shouts some homophobic things at. Hunter then tells Dylan to kill Hansel, and he actually listens. He slaughters him with a knife while Hunter eats his remains and grows into an ever more powerful demon. Hunter then shoots Dolly and Dylan in the heads and then eats them too, growing bigger and bigger. The end. I think I've ended on the worst one I read. And that's when you get top 10, the worst one is at number 1 always. And that is it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed or were scared by this or disturbed. I don't even know what this is meant to make you feel, really. I hope you guys are quarantining well. As always, I'm your host, Ayman Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.